What's going on, y'all? Today we got how the 96 Bulls are destroying their legacy. Let's get right into it, man. I skipped up a little ahead, because usually Basketball Time Machine starts the videos around 1 minute. It'd be the intro, so let's get into it. All right.
The 1996 Chicago Bulls were my favorite team of all time. Now, obviously, they were a very successful team. They won the NBA championship and they won 72 games, but that's not only the reason. If you are a fan of pure basketball, of beautiful basketball, then you have to love that team. They were basically the perfect combination of everything. They had the best three-point shooter in Steve Kerr, but they also had many of the greatest passers of their position. Now, Scottie Pippen, obviously, Michael Jordan, who is a very much underrated passer, Luke Longley, who was a great passer for a big, Tony Kukoc, who was a sensational passer for his position. So you had many unselfish players on that team, and yeah, the triangle offense obviously was also pure beauty. And there were so many reasons why I just love watching this team.
I ain't gonna lie. The Bulls' interior passing, that's the correct term for it. The Bulls' interior passing is that's what's so different about it, and it's just they're so unselfish with the Bull when they get into the paint. They could go right up and and maybe it'd be a tough layup and they might make it, but they make the extra pass to get that wide open. You know what I'm saying? Wide open dunk.
Of course, they were a sensational defensive team with Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen. You had four of the greatest defenders, not only of the 90s, but probably of all time. So that team, to me, just has such a high meaning. I just love that team so much. I have so many great memories watching that team. So obviously, when I hear people talking bad about that team, it hurts me as a basketball fan. And this is exactly what this video is about. And there is specifically one player who, for the past 2 to 3 years, was talking pretty negative about Michael Jordan. And the unfortunate thing is that player was also is still one of my favorite players of all time. I'm of course talking about Scottie Pippen. Now, where does that come from? Now, we all have to think back when the Last Dance documentary came out. Now, obviously, it came out during the Corona time. Everybody was super hyped about that documentary, and it was basically the greatest thing that happened to us as a basketball fan, having the chance to watch basically 10 episodes of the Chicago Bulls. And the thing that rubbed Scottie Pippen the wrong way was that it turned out to be more of a Michael Jordan documentary than a Chicago Bulls documentary, which I understand from Scottie Pippen's standpoint. Scottie was thinking that it would be a Chicago Bulls documentary, highlighting more of the team in general. But if I would have to say percentage-wise, it turned out to be 60% Michael Jordan, 40% the Chicago Bulls, which to me was still great. But yeah, honestly, Scott.
I mean, you gotta know that's the greatest. Mike's the greatest, bro. You gotta know what's going on here.
And the other guys were told something totally different. But what I did not expect was Scottie responding the way that he did. Now, what happened in the past 3 years, Scottie was bashing Michael Jordan like crazy, basically going on so many NBA shows and talking about Michael in a very, very negative way. And it got even worse and worse. It got to a point where Scottie seemed to be bitter. And this to me is something that I really, really feel sad about, because Scottie to me was not only a great player, I also wanted him to be a bigger man dealing with this situation in a different way. Now, as I told you, Scottie was on many shows, but a couple of days ago, I found an interview of Scottie Pippen on the Stacey King show. Stacey King was a former teammate who played with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan in the early 90s with the first three-peat. And the interview was basically Scottie trashing Jordan like crazy. Now, I watched the full interview. I picked out some of the, I don't want to call them highlights, but the most important points. Let's take a look.
But it turned out that the NBA sort of turned their backs on the players and pretty much sold the video to Michael, or gave it to him. But as we all know, Michael has always had a different hand inside with the league. He was always dealt with separately, differently, and however you want to break it down. So that's really what it all boiled down to at the end of the day.
one of the things that really came through loud and clear was how mean and cruel that Jordan could be to his teammates. I know that in talking to Stacy and so many guys on those 90s teams, they always say that Scottie Pippen was our favorite teammate because he was supportive and he cared about everybody on the squad. How important was that role to the success of the team where Jordan could be so heavy-handed, you were a guy who lifted the other guys up?
I'll put it like this. Of all my years I played in Chicago and played with Michael, I never saw one free agent come to the Bulls and said that they want to play there with Michael. I do recall a couple of them coming there during the off season when he retired, or the 2 years that he was away from the game. So I say that to say this. The success of the Bulls came from a team. It didn't come from Michael Jordan. It didn't come from him being critical of other players. So to look at his character as a player, none of that was driving us into winning. LeBron will be the greatest statistical guy to ever play the game of basketball.
Yeah, see, come on, Scott, you just like, bro. It's all in good faith, man. Like Mike pushing his teammates, maybe saying things in a harsh way. It's all in good faith. At the end of the day, he wants to win, and that's the goal, right? That's the goal, Scotty. So you can't fault him for that. You can't fault him for being himself. At least he's not faking it out there, you know. At least he gonna tell you how you feel, man. I ain't tripping. Scotty got
and
the
there's
chill,
no
man.
comparison. None. So does that make him the greatest player to ever play the game? I'll leave that out for debating because I don't believe that there's a great player because our game is a team game and one player can't do it. Like, I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He's a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was
a horrible player. That's the mic that dropped what? What was it? Pardon me for not remembering the amount of points he scored. I think it was 63. If it's not, then I know y'all will correct me. So you know what I'm saying. But
one-on-one.
Bro.
He's shooting bad shots, and all of a sudden we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
Now, as you can see, this is some pretty hard stuff that Scottie Pippen is talking about. And yeah, again, Scottie Pippen just trashing Michael Jordan. But this is not the only thing where the Bulls themselves are hurting their own legacy. Now, the next person that I have to talk about is Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson is my favorite coach of all time. I read all of his books. I love his philosophy. I love him as a person, the way he's portraying himself. Just a big fan of him. And yeah, again, Phil Jackson also made some comments in the past years which didn't look too good. And again, Scottie Pippen is trashing him again. So let me show you guys what Phil Jackson said. And again, also show you what Scottie Pippen was saying about Phil Jackson. And it's just not looking good.
Do you still watch a lot of basketball or
no? I don't.
Tell me about that. When and did you stop immediately from the time you stopped coaching?
No, I didn't. I watched some of the game evolve and decided, and they went into the lockout year and they did something that was kind of wanky. They did a bubble down in Orlando, and all the teams that could qualify went down there and stayed down there.
No audience.
And they had things on their back like, Justice, and I made a little funny thing like, Justice just went to the basket and Equal Opportunity just knocked him down. And somebody had another name for a guy who has jersey in the back of a jersey, had some other slogan. So my grandkids thought that was pretty funny to play up those names. So I couldn't watch that. And the Lakers won, actually. They won that year.
Nah, yeah, it's pretty disturbing, bro. Like, what is he talking about? Oh, shit, my fault.
And that, Scotty, I'm just going by what you said. You said you need to read between the fine lines. And then you go on to say it was a racial move to give him, Tony Kukoc, or Rod.
Well, I mean, if you knew that Scottie Pippen had been with the Bulls from '87, battled through the Pistons and every other team that we had to get to those 3 championships, wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like, 1 year without Michael Jordan. Can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
But all of that I understand from the basketball standpoint. But when you say a racial move...
Well, why would Tony, who was a rookie, get the last-second shot and you put me out of bounds? That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then,
was
but,
on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah. But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
I wish I would have had a chance to talk to Scottie. I think, and remember, Scottie is still one of my favorite players of all time. That man is responsible for so many fine memories. But I would wish that he would deal with that situation in a different way. It just makes Scottie look bad. It's totally fine if you have that you feel a certain way about Michael Jordan and that you hurt. I get that, and it's totally fine, and it's okay if all feelings have their right to exist. So it's totally fine that Scottie feels that way, but you should at least in the public media respond in a different way. It just does not make you look good. Plus, you also have to understand that the stuff that you talk about, it really, really hurts the true fans that grew up with you guys. Yeah, that's just my opinion. I would love to hear what you guys think about it.
Nah, facts. Let me know what y'all think, man. Scottie I feel like he's just doing too much, man. You got to just leave this stuff alone. Keep going to interviews, putting yourself in these situations, and allowing yourself to ramble on about the question and just, have yourself look bitter in the light of the media, in the light of the world, bro. The way it looks like you're bitter, gang. It looks like you mad about your ex-wife or whatever, things like that, bro. And it probably isn't that true. Like, truthfully, it probably isn't even that. It's probably something that they had, behind the scenes or whatever. And then it's just not gonna be brought out to the light. But in the public perspective, it's gonna look as if he's mad about a female or something. But, you know what I'm saying? You can't be coming online doing all this, bro. It's not gonna look good, ever. But if y'all enjoy, y'all know what to do. Let me know how y'all feel in the comments. Turn on post notifications. Tell me what you want me to react to next. And I'm out of here, man.